Okay, in this video, we're going to be discussing orange peel. We're going to discuss what it looks like, how I ended up getting orange peel on this vehicle, and then I'll show you how I ended up getting it off. So as you can imagine, just to start out with, if you look at an orange, you can see all the little bumps on there. And I'll show you later when we look at this panel on the truck, you'll see the same kind of bumps, so you kind of have an idea of that's what we're talking about. All right, first we'll do a drawing of what it looks like on the truck. So the first thing I want to draw out is the metal. So this would be an example of a body panel. Oh, that's going a little bit bad. That says metal anyway. So that's your first body panel. On top of that, we're going to have the initial, let me just kind of go like this. We're going to have the initial paint, primer, and then paint again. So this was the paint from the body work, paint, primer, and paint. So it's initial paint and primer that came out of the factory, followed by somebody had done some body work on it and painted it in a darker blue. What I ended up doing was here. In the body work, I ended up doing a lot of sanding and prepping to finally put the factory color on that you see here. And we'll show you that a little bit more later. But of course, in doing so, there were some areas where I did go down to the metal, which really wasn't a big issue. That's a little bit exploded here. It's probably more like this. Where I did go down to the metal, not a big issue at all. I mean, you think about this is really thin. And was expected. From there, I ended up putting a filler primer, which did a fantastic job of filling in any imperfections. Although it was a little bit bumpy, the filler primer, it really filled everything in. So I'll call this primer. And then followed by that, I did a coat of sealer primer. And what the sealer primer did is it really just kind of took and cleared away any imperfections in the paint, any imperfections that were there. And at this point, when I was working on the truck, everything was going fantastic. The body was looking great, and I was really pleased with the results. From there, what I did is I did 2 coats of the blue. And again, that's this blue that you see right here on the truck. So I did 2 coats of the blue. And that turned out to be fantastic also. I was really pleased. It was smooth. It was clear. It was just turned out really good. However, this is where things went wrong. Now I'd use another color, but the other colors aren't working for me. Let's try red. At this point, everything was great. We got the blue, we got the primer, we got the blue. Everything was looking good. I then put on 2 coats of clear coat. And the problem is the clear coat ended up like this. And this is where I ended up with the orange peel. And the reason, as I've done some more research, what I believe ended up happening was I was using the wrong nozzle. And so the blue was using the correct nozzle, the primer and everything else was fine with the nozzle. The clear coat was the wrong nozzle, and it kind of almost globbed it on and then ended up drying. And that's where I ended up with these bumps, and that's where I ended up with the orange peel. So what we're going to be doing to get rid of the orange peel is we're going to be using different grits of sandpaper, and we're also going to be doing a lot of polishing in the hopes that we're going to start taking this off, the tips off. And our goal is that we end up with a nice, very smooth layer on top. The reality is we're still going to have areas like here and here and here that are going to be a little bit low, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be a lot better than what we have, and it's going to be a lot better than repainting the truck, which I already ended up repainting the truck once the top of the truck once. So let's take a look at the orange peel on the truck, and then what we'll do is we'll look at the tools and the sandpaper stuff. Okay, so what does orange peel look like on our actual truck? So if you look really closely here, you're going to kind of see that on the body. You're going to see the reflection of the lights on there, but that's really what the orange peel looks like. I actually had somebody come to look at the truck. They come from quite a distance, and when they saw the orange peel, they were disappointed. I believe I had told them, I thought I had been very clear that it was there, but I think it was worse than they expected. After he was here, I really put a lot of thought into it, and I thought, I think I can still get rid of that. So I'm going to be using a little bit more aggressive sandpaper than you should be using, and there are risks to that, and the risk is that you end up burning through. So here's an area where I burnt through the paint. Here's another area where I ended up burning through the paint. You can see that right there. And then here's a third area where I burned through the paint, right there. But as you can see how clear that panel is? What I'm showing you here, let's go back so you can see what I'm looking at. So as we go closer, this is a panel that I've already done. And look at how clear that is compared to the other one. Again, the orange peel was pretty bad, so I ended up being fairly aggressive with the sandpaper. Okay, let's look at the sandpaper that I'm going to be using in a couple of the tools. I'm going to be using 600 and 800 grit. Typically, I would say don't even start there. What most people are going to tell you to do is start with 1,000 and 1,500. If I were you, I would start with 1,000 or 1,200 first before even doing the other ones. In the normal situations, you're going to be absolutely fine with that. So we'll do the 600, the 800, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, and then this really it's a 3,000 grit, which still does take stuff off. This I'll show you in a little bit is what we wrap the sandpaper around. This is a bucket where I'll be using warm water mainly because I'm in Minnesota and it's cold. Rag for wiping things down, and a spray bottle for just kind of spraying water on. Okay, so we've looked at the orange peel, what it looks like. We've looked at the sandpaper that I'm going to be using. So really, we're going to start with the sandpaper, going to higher and higher grits. Once we're done with that, then we're going to do the polish. One of the things with the polish that I guess I get I'm not really sure of, and I know some people can answer this, but is Meguiar's has this type of polish here, which has one type of numbering system. This is the Ultra Cut number 105. What I do is I use this as going to be the first thing I use after doing the sanding. I will then follow it up with this, and this is going to get rid of a lot of the swirls that this creates. Where I get a little bit confused is when we look at this. It's the same bottle, same coloring, but it's got a different numbering system. So rather than the 105, 205, it's got a 4, 6, 9, and I'm assuming it goes 1 through 9 or whatever. Again, I'm not really sure what the difference is between the two. I'm just thinking, being an R&D myself, I just think people at Meguiar's, they just come up with a lot of things. And then we also have this. And what this is, I believe this is probably more of a brand that's not commercial, not for commercial use, it's more for personal use. I've had really good luck with this. So what I'm going to end up doing, once I'm done sanding, I'm going to use this. It's really going to take, as you'll see when I'm done sanding, it's going to be very dull. This will take the dullness away. This will kind of take away a lot of the scratches. And then this is going to put a nice coat of paint on. What I'm going to use, I'll show you the tools. I've got over 600 hours into this truck so far. I stopped counting at 600 because I got tired of counting the hours. Anyway, the biggest lesson I learned is buy quality tools. I spent $30 on this tool, or maybe $40. It lasted probably 20 hours. I did a ton of research and I spent $200 on this tool. It runs really good, and I expect this to last me many, many years based on the research. It's also weighted a little bit better. It's got a better filtering system on there, which keeps a lot of the stuff out of it. And again, from the research I found, I think this is going to last me many years to come. And that's not the only case where I had issues with tools. All right, so for the higher grit polishing compound, I'm going to use this one. No real specific reason. And then I'll use a separate one with the other polishing compound. The reason I use separate ones is I don't want to use the higher grit with this and then put the lower grit on there, and then I would just be swirling everything around. Once that's done and I apply the cleaner wax, I'm going to use one of these, although I haven't quite had good luck with them as a polish, but I have very good luck with them as a wax. So I think I'm doing something wrong. What I think I should be doing is putting the wax on, letting it dry, and just using this to get the wax off. Although they do say they can be used for polishing and compounding, but it just doesn't seem to work for me. So again, there's probably people that know what to do with this.